And I guess we're live. All right, so let me just check our um, uh, live stream. Hello, guys. Let me know if you're here. Yes, and drop me a line or two if you can hear me well. Okay, so today is our presentation for PTE, and my name is Brian. I will be joined very shortly by Sir Philip, who's going to be doing the test. But in the meantime, let me know where you're from, and just say hi. And if you want to share this with your friends who will be also going to the US and who would also like to be assisted by Kinetics, one of the best recruitment companies. Please do invite them over. Nurses, in particular, who will be taking the PTE very soon for their visa screen purposes or for their registration going to the US with the Board of Nursing in their particular states. This is going to be very helpful. So, if you're contemplating on whether PTE is the perfect exam for you, or whether this is going to be the exam that you're going to get the highest possible grades in, then stick around and I'll let you know later what things you need to take into consideration when you're choosing this examination. All right. So anyway, um, let's first start with an overview of your PTE examination. I'm not going to talk about all of the components of the test, but I'm going to be specifically discussing the PTE speaking component because that's what we're here for today. A lot of people actually struggle with the PTE speaking component. Like, there are so many candidates who don't get their target results or target scores for PTE speaking, and that's probably because they're doing some things that do not help them to get a higher grade in the PTE, or they're just doing things wrong, like they're using the wrong strategies to get high scores in the test. All right, so let's talk about the speaking component just very briefly. The speaking component is actually very straightforward, and you have various types of questions. Some of them integrated, some of them are solely for speaking. So let's start with the first one. The first one is probably one of the easiest question types for PTE, and that's read aloud. In this part of the examination, you will be looking at um, a passage, and you will have to study the passage before you start speaking. You have 40 seconds to respond and to read everything you see, like the entire text on screen, aloud, and you get scores basically for all of the words that you have properly read. That's kind of exciting. And this is being graded based on three things. So there are three different things that you're going to be graded for in this exam. Number one, your content as to whether you were able to read all of the words correctly. And number two, your pronunciation. And number three, your oral fluency or intelligibility. Um, Oral fluency would mean that you are actually not making a lot of mistakes. You're not having false starts. You're not hesitating. You don't sound unconfident. And your pronunciation will be the clarity of your speech. Accent is not really required in the PTE, but you need to make sure that you are pronouncing words clearly. And you have to assume that you're talking to a native English speaker, and that native English speaker should be able to understand you even with your accent. So yeah, let's read aloud. You get a few slides for this one, and then the next one that you're going to have will be your so read aloud. You have repeat sentence, and repeat sentence will be this part of the examination when you're going to be hearing a recording, and you will have to repeat everything that you have actually heard. And the accuracy of that is important, but it is also critical that when you repeat the sentences, you are also putting attention into how the sentence was phrased or what intonation pattern was used. Was it the rising intonation or the falling intonation? These are things that you need to pay attention to, and not just just memorizing all of the words, because it's not just about the words. You have to also ensure that you're using the proper intonation whenever you are repeating the sentences. Actually, you have a lot of points for this part of the examination, so you do get plenty of points from the words that you repeat. And then after that, you're going to head on to the next part of the examination, and that's going to be describe image. In describe image, you will be presented a graph or a chart or an image or an illustration or any kind of graphic. And what you're supposed to do is to prepare for a few seconds what you're going to say. And then when you hear the beep, you will have to describe the image in 40 seconds, making sure that you were able to discuss all of the salient features of the chart, and at the same time you're able to draw a conclusion from what you have actually seen. And in your delivery, you will be graded for content, which means to say that you were able to highlight all the important features. And then you're also going to be graded for, again, oral fluency and pronunciation. Next, we have one of the topper question types, which is your retail lecture. A retail lecture is actually quite
Hello there.
difficult. Hello, that's Sir Philip. All right, so I'm just discussing right now the types of questions, and then we're going to go straight into the PTE on the spot test. All right. So as I was saying, retail lecture is that time when you will be listening to a recording, and it's kind of long. It's 1 minute 30 seconds for one recording. Usually get only like a couple of this in your examination. Sometimes you only get one. And then after hearing the recording, you have to jot down notes, of course, because you need to remember as many key points from the recording as possible. And then after that, you will have to summarize everything that you have heard. You don't need to discuss, you just need to probably mention some of the key points so that you don't run out of time, because you only have 40 seconds to summarize everything that you have heard in the recording. And then you have very easy questions towards the end. These are your answer short questions items, and they're actually just trivia questions. Or just ask very simple questions, and you just need to provide maybe a word or maybe a short phrase as a response to that. You don't get extra credit for when you pronounce everything correctly or when you deliver things or the words or the phrases effectively, because there's no oral fluency score and pronunciation score for the answer short questions part of the examination. You only get like 1 point if the answer is correct and zero if you don't get it correct. All right, so I'll turn over the floor to Sir Philip so that he can properly introduce himself before we launch into the on the spot PTE exam. Okay, Sir Philip, hello.
Thank you very much, Sir Brian. Yeah, I'm excited for tonight. It's my first time to do this actually, and I am looking forward to figuring out how it actually is to take the PTA speaking test. I can't wait to get started.
Okay. That sounds really fun. So again, if you have questions, by the way, guys, about the PTE, you can post your questions down the comments section. We're going to be able to see all of those. I'm actually seeing some people
Hello.
mentioning where
Oh,
they're
I'm sorry.
from.
I think there's some kind of lag. Were you able to
Ah,
hear what I said last time?
yeah, definitely. um, yeah, so there's a little bit
Oh,
of a delay if you're using, I think, Facebook, because Facebook is going
hmm.
to stream this a little later.
Sir Brian, were you able to hear me?
Yeah, I did hear you. So there's a little bit of an audio delay, I guess. All right, we're experiencing some audio delay. So, yeah, let me just go ahead and help Sir Philip out. Um,
Hi, Sir Brian.
okay, so yeah. Yeah, so I'm seeing some comments here. Hello everyone, my name is but I live in France. Okay, Johnny. Um Oh, sorry about this. This is actually spam. All right. So some people. Okay. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our session for today. This is actually super fun. We are going to be talking about the different components of your PTE, and we're going to be doing a quick sample as well on how to perform for the PTE exam. That's really super fun. Okay. So just some tips before I actually do the test with Sir Philip. Number one, when you're taking the speaking examination, there are a lot of people who feel that they have to be shouting at the top of their lungs when they're doing this speaking test because everything's going to be recorded and you're going to be competing against 15 other or 14 or 10 other people inside the room who are also simultaneously taking the examination with you. So there's always this tendency for some candidates to shout at the top of their lungs, and that's not necessarily the most effective strategy when you're taking the PTE, because when you're a little shouty, it will not sound very natural and resonant, and at the same time it can actually ruin your recording, especially if the pitch is so high. It's very prone to sounding a bit garbled in the recorded setup. And remember, you're not going to be graded by humans here, are going to be graded by computers. All right. Oh, Sir Philip is
Sir
back.
Brian, can you
Hello.
hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah, hopefully there's
Hurrah!
no audio delay anymore.
Yeah, there was a significant delay earlier, and
Oh,
but I think we managed to make it happen. So hello again,
okay.
everybody. Yeah, hi.
All right, that's great.
Let's get
Okay,
to it.
let's get to it. Yeah. All right. So, yes, I was saying don't put your mouth so close to the microphone. Don't shout at the top of your lungs. Just talk normally and casually and conversationally, hopefully. Right. So, I'm going to just present my slide. Hold on. So, I'm just doing a slideshow. Oops. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen at the moment. Let me just look at the window. This is going to be our basis for the coaching. All right, so there you go, guys. Can you see? Hopefully, you can see. This is actually our speaking set one. We do have one-on-one tutorials for PTE. This is also the material that we use. Okay, so first we're going to do the read aloud portion. Okay, so here we have the read aloud question, and Sir Philip has a total of 37 seconds to look at the text. Now, this is variable, guys. This is not always 37 seconds, but for now it's 37 because it depends on the length of the passage. Okay, so Sir Philip has 37 seconds. I'll count 37. And then when I say go, but in the actual exam it's a beep, then he has to speak. Okay.
Oh, Sir Brian, the our photos block the text.
Oh,
Ah, there
sorry,
we go.
sorry.
Better, better.
Sorry. Okay, so let's reset the time. Okay. Okay, that's 37 seconds. You can start speaking now. In the actual exam, there will be a beep.
Okay. Technology can be deemed to be pretty good at regulating external reality to foster real biological fitness. However, it's an undeniable fact that it's even better at rendering fake fitness. subjective indication of reproduction and survival without the real world effects. Fitness faking technology has a proclivity to evolve at a much faster pace, even more than our psychological resistance.
Excellent. Now let's move on to the next part, which is your repeat sentence. You will hear sentences and then you have to repeat the sentences exactly as you hear them. You will hear the sentence only once. So, for a lot of candidates, this one's the hardest part because of poor memory. Okay, so yeah, I'm
Oh
going to be
no.
playing the audio and then Sir Philip needs to repeat right away. Okay. Right.
Interesting.
So let's hope oh sorry. Let's hope
Oops.
that Sir Philip gets
I'll
everything
pretend
right.
I did not see that. I did not see that.
Okay, certainly. All right. So let's start with recording number 1.
Test 1. Repeat sentence. Page 15. 1.
Factors such as cost and function influence the design of a bridge.
Factors such as cost and function influence the design of a bridge.
This is recording number 2.
2.
It's important that humans dispose of their waste in appropriate ways.
It's important that humans dispose of their waste in appropriate ways.
And the last one.
3.
If you are unable to complete the task in time, please notify me by email.
If you are unable to accomplish the task in time, please notify me through email.
Okay, so there you go. These are
Yay.
the answers. And we're going to discuss this later, but let's just jump right into describe image. You have 25 seconds for this.
Oh dear.
Sir Philip.
Oh dear, I can't read it.
Okay.
Let me
All right. So
zoom in.
I'm just gonna recite
Oh.
probably all of the variables. So this is a pie chart,
Thank you.
and the
Thank you,
highest
Sir
one
Brian.
is 42% for Metro. Yeah, so it's 42% for Metro. That's the biggest chunk, and then we have 24 for bike and 23 for local bus, and then 11 for car. So these are the preferred mode of commuting. Preferred mode of commuting. Okay, so
Thank
let
you,
me
Sir
repeat the
Brian.
details. 42 for Metro, 24 for bike, 23 for local bus, and 11 for car. So I'm going to give Sir Philip here a total of 25 seconds to prepare. All right, so let's go.
Let me be really close to my phone. What's that?
Okay, that's 25 seconds. All right, so Sir Philip has 40 seconds to describe the image. 40 seconds starts now.
The pie chart depicts the four kinds of commuting that are preferred by people. There is metro, local bus, bike, as well as car. Immediately, it can be seen that commuting through metro is the most preferred by far at 42%, and followed by bike at 24%, local bus at 23%, and car, oh no, I cannot see it, at whatever percent that is. There, at 11%. The differences are quite stark because the percentage of people who would prefer metro is roughly 4 times larger than this. Oh, did you signal that I'm done?
Not yet.
Oh, apologies. I thought you signaled.
Okay.
Uh, Perhaps we can try again.
Oh yeah. We can try again. Okay, let's
can try.
repeat so that it's 40 seconds. Okay, let's start now.
Okay. The pie chart shows the four kinds of commuting that are preferred by people. There are four: the metro, local bus, bike, as well as car. Immediately, it can be seen that metro is the most popular mode of commuting at 42% of the people wanting to travel this way, followed by bikes at 24%, local bus at 23%, and cars at only 11%. It can be seen that the people who prefer to commute through the metro are 4 times larger compared to the car. Around only
That's enough.
1/10.
All right, so we
Okay.
have 40%, and that's good. Let's move
So
on
very
now
good.
to the read the lecture part. So a lot of people struggle with this part of the examination. So I will ask Sir Philip here to get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen because
I have.
the recording is going to be lengthy.
Hmm. I
Uh-huh.
have one.
Yeah, actually, in the PTE, sometimes you get two, sometimes you get one, and for repeat sentence, sometimes you get more. But of course, this is just a sampler, so we're just doing one today.
Mm,
Okay, let's do
interesting.
the set.
2,
Okay, to help you with your research, I just wanted to give you some tips today on using focus groups. These are groups of people that you get together to find out about their opinions and attitudes. For example, to review a piece of work, or just basically provide some collective input to help you with whatever you're researching. First of all, how large should a focus group be? Well, I would say that an ideal number of participants is around 6 or 7. If it's any bigger, what quite often happens is they break into side conversations and the focus is lost. If it's any smaller, you may not get the range of views that you need to get a really good discussion. Secondly, it's important that you have a moderator for the group who's able to facilitate and guide the discussions. The moderator must ensure that everyone participates and stop anyone dominating. And also, the moderator needs to make sure that the discussions don't go off in the wrong direction. And thirdly, in order to help the group focus on what's required, some basic materials should be used, particularly to kickstart the discussions. This may be in the form of pictures, photos, diagrams, graphs, etc., and will help the group to understand the context of what needs to be discussed.
So Sir Philip now has 10 seconds to fix his notes, and then after that, the beep will come in, and he has to start speaking. Okay, so that's 10 seconds. In the actual exam, there will be a beep, but for now, I'll prompt Sir Philip to start. You can start now, Sir Philip. You have 40 seconds.
Thank you. It talked about the 3 kinds of tips for focus groups that are used for research. The first is size, the second is the moderator, and the third are the materials to be used. Focus groups are ways for opinions and attitudes of the work or the research can be figured out. First, when it comes to size, 6 to 7 is ideal. Any bigger, and there could be risk of side conversations. Any smaller, and there would be a limited range of views that could be expressed. The second, the moderator, this person's job is to facilitate the discussions, ensure that everybody talks, and that not one person dominates, and it provides focus for what is being discussed. And the third are the materials to be used. They can be pictures or diagrams, and they're used to kickstart what is discussed and to provide context for the talks.
Thank you. All right. So now let us move on to the last part of our test. Now, for this part, of course, there will be recordings, but of course, I will not be playing the recordings anymore. I will be the one to ask the questions instead. Okay. All right. So
Oh,
this is only
interesting.
1 point each. Okay. So I will be the one to, so I will probably stop sharing because I will need to ask all of these questions. So I just need to ask simple questions and Sir Philip will answer them with just a short phrase or a word. Okay, so let's start. You will hear a question. Please give a simple and short answer. Number one, what do we call a period of 100 years?
Century.
What do you call a specialist who repairs leaking water pipes?
Plumber.
And number three, what is the painting of a person's head usually called?
Portrait.
Excellent. All right, so that's the end of the test. But in the actual exam, we get like 9 or 10 of them.
Oh, oh
All right, so
Lord.
that's so fun. My gosh. All right, so let's
Yeah, so
review.
fun, Sir Brian.
Yeah, it is, right? Let's review the
Yeah.
answers of Sir Philip. For read aloud, he actually said everything correctly, which is super nice because there are 58 words, and probably he's going to get all of the 58 correct items. Plus, the delivery is so good. There was not any hiccup during the entire presentation. And I actually like the fact that he was emphasizing important words like fitness, speaking,
Ah,
technology,
right,
and all of
right,
those
right,
things.
right,
So
right.
that actually gives extra points for pronunciation and intelligibility. So actually, for read aloud, it's flawless. Like you guys should also do what he did. It's exactly how you should actually deliver. Okay, now let's go to repeat sentence. That's really uncanny because Sir Philip, at this point in
Uncanny.
my
What a
life,
word.
at this point in my life, I don't know if I can still do repeat sentences. I mean, my memory is not as sharp as it was before, but my goodness, right? So the first one had 12 words. The first one was factors such as cost and function influence the design of a bridge, and this was perfect. 12 out of
Yay.
12 with
Great.
excellent pronunciation, and also oral fluency. There's no hesitation or false start at all during that delivery. The next one is it's important that humans dispose of their waste in appropriate ways. It's also exactly
Mm,
repeated as it is. No mistake at all. So that's also flawless.
hooray.
That's 11 words. But the most difficult one was the last one. Oh my goodness. You don't really get a lot of these in the actual PTE, but this was 15 words. Super long.
Mm,
If you're unable to complete the task in time, please notify me by email. I think there was just one mistake here, which is it should be by email, not through email, but that's 14 over
mm,
15. And this is something that I want to just emphasize because in the actual PTE, when you take repeat sentence, you will not be given zero just because you have made a mistake. It is not all or nothing. So you get partial credit for still being able to repeat more than 50% of the total recorded sentence. In short, because the delivery was still very fluid, that's still perfect for the oral fluency part, perfect as well for pronunciation. You're just going to get one tiny deduction, and that's not going to hurt your score. I can tell you, not at all. So you can still get a 90 even if you make a few mistakes. What I don't like you guys to do is to just keep quiet and skip the item just because you can't perfectly repeat it. Right?
Sir
So
Brian,
repeat
I have a
sentence.
question.
Yeah,
Sir
sure.
Brian, I have a question. Yeah. So is it correct to say that missing half of the words is the same has the same impact as missing one word?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
there are only 3 points actually. It's 3 points if you get everything correct, 2 points if you get at least 50% right, and if you get at least less than 50% right, but it's still intelligible, then you still get 1 point. Can you imagine? Like you delivered
Yeah.
everything, but it doesn't make sense. So, for example, you said if you are notified by email, it doesn't make any sense at all.
uh, oh
But you
no. Oh
delivered that
no.
with so much confidence and your pronunciation is good, and that's probably
It's
still 25% of the total recorded speech. That's still
mm,
going to give you credit
interesting.
compared to not speaking.
I would have to validate what you said earlier about memory. Like my
Mhm.
brain was like operating so fast. Like, oh my god, I had to get the words out
Adrenaline.
of my mouth, or else it would like vanish like from my head.
Uh-huh.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, exactly. Especially if you're just repeating from your memory, because if you don't
Mm,
repeat right away and you just pause for just 1 second to compose your thoughts,
it
the next
vanishes.
second it's gone.
Like what? And it really
Like what
helps.
happened?
What? And it really helps following the intonation and the pattern
Yes,
of the
certainly.
speaker. Yeah, because
Mhm.
it's like a song, I guess. You're just like
Mhm.
singing back.
And that's actually the best way to do it because if you follow the intonation pattern, then you do not get any deductions for pronunciation because you're supposed to do so. Excellent
Ah,
job.
ah, thank you.
Yes. So, for example, it's a question that's answerable by yes or no, and the speaker said, something like, "Are you coming in next week?" And you said, "Are you coming in next week?" Like, you're
That's a
gonna get a
minus.
deduction for pronunciation. This is
Okay.
not the pattern that was used. I absolutely loved the uh, describe image part. I mean,
We tried our best. We
yeah,
tried
yeah,
our
it was
best.
difficult, but um what I loved about that is it was so summative, and it took 40 seconds, yes, but everything was there. So there was an introduction part in which Sir Philip actually mentioned what this is all about, like what the chart is all about, and then mentioned all of the different variables and their corresponding percentages. And then what I love towards the end is he still actually said something to compare, which kind of concludes the entire described image portion. And that's what I actually also advise you guys. Don't just recite all of the main features. You have to have a conclusive ending. It should sound like it's over. Because one of the things that you will be graded for in describe image is your conclusion. If you don't have a conclusion, so for example, get cut off in the middle because you're talking too much, and then you weren't able to capture that one sentence that's going to wrap everything up, then that's going to be a severe penalty in your exam. In Sir Philip's case, he was able to fit in within 40 seconds. He
Yay.
actually spoke for 38 and then, had to cut
Cut.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right?
imagine that it's a different experience if you could see the timer in
The
front of you.
timer, certainly. You would be
Right.
like, oh my
Right.
gosh, I'm three-fourths
Oh,
done. I
like
need to
stop, stop. I have to wrap
stop,
this up. No.
wrap this up, like,
No, 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 no.
let it go.
Yeah, literally.
Um, One of the strongest that I've heard was read the lecture, and it's a testament to how good Sir Philip's listening skills are, because the passage, or no, sorry, the recording was actually extremely long. It's over 1 minute, and there were a lot of details. And actually, according to my answer key here, there are three different important features, which Sir Philip was able to cover so effectively during his speech. So, no
Thank you.
problems at all. And he was able to squeeze everything in during the speaking time, which is excellent. And I also loved how organized it was. He delivered an introduction and launched into, oh, this is point one, point two, and point three. I'm going to discuss them later because I need to
Yeah,
cover all of that. That's so
that's true. That's
strategic,
true. That's true.
because
That, an
um,
overview.
yeah, you don't really need to discuss everything in detail, but you need to at least mention all of those important key points so the computer recognizes that you were able to listen attentively. So that's super nice. All right, I would not have done it any other way.
I,
All right, so
I believe
number
I
one,
had some. I believe I
yeah.
had some hesitations though,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
that's
did.
yeah.
I
I
did.
love that question because Sir Philip doesn't really get any deductions for that.
I
Remember,
don't.
hesitations are great if you use fillers. Hesitations are not good if you pause. So the computer will recognize a pause to be an indicator that the candidate is labored in his speech and cannot think of the right word to say. But if there's a hesitation and it's sort of like filled with the filler, replaced with the filler, the computer doesn't give any deductions. So if you say ums or us in between your speech, that's totally fine. It's much better compared to pausing for a long time. And I actually love talking about this because in other exams, it's a little bit different. Like all sorts of hesitations will definitely warrant the deduction, but for PTE, it's different. So, hesitations don't give any deductions at all as long as there were fillers that were used. Just in case you're still thinking of what to say next, you can use or ah, and that's going to fill the gap. But if you pause for a significant amount of time, the computer will recognize that to be labored speech.
I have
Okay.
another question. Oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
have another
sure.
question, Sir Brian. What if you're cut off in the middle of the sentence? Does the computer deduct you points for that?
Well, it depends on the type of question. If you get caught in the middle of read aloud, certainly
Yeah,
that's going
I
to affect
imagine.
your score because
Yeah.
the rest of the words will not be captured. For describe image, if you get caught in the middle and you haven't delivered your conclusion yet, so yes, it will affect your score. For read the lecture, not so much. because you just need to make sure you have covered everything. So
Mm.
if it stands, not much deduction for that, right? So it depends on the type of question generally. Okay,
Okay.
the computer just wants to sample 40 seconds of your speech, and that will be enough for the computer
Mm.
to kind of calculate what your level of English is.
Right,
All
right.
right, which is also good because I have heard some websites are recommending that candidates speak only for 20 seconds. Like, it's crazy. I
Why?
don't advise that because if you don't
Right.
feed data to the computer, there's nothing to assess. And usually it leads to lower scores. So don't do that, guys. If you've ever heard that from other websites, don't always maximize your time. If you could speak up to 30 seconds plus plus, go ahead and do so because the more data you feed to the computer, the better the accuracy of your score. And
As
yeah.
as long as you don't just keep repeating what you've
Oh
already
yeah,
said.
certainly.
Right, right. I
Certainly.
believe I believe Kameni Estelle has a question. Are you
Oh yeah.
obliged to give the name of the image presented, like the title
Uh,
of the data?
mhm.
I guess.
Well, that's a good question. Yes, you can. That is a possibility. If you want to, introduce the chart, it's possible, but it's not always required. You can launch right away, especially if you have a very complicated chart. Like you could launch right away into, all of the figures, and you can just probably give a reference to what the chart presents and not really read the entire title, because sometimes the titles can be very long.
Mm.
Okay, good
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
And the final part was sort of like, a quiz B or something.
The
Trivia.
plumber thing was so hard. I was like, what do you
Oh my
call
gosh.
those
Okay.
people? I almost
All
said
right.
carpenter, but no. But no, 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 no. That's
We
not
need
what they
to
do.
know our construction workers. All right.
Yeah, true, 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 true.
Okay, number one, what do we call a period of 100 years? And Sir Philip said century. Correct. 1 point.
Okay.
Right.
Hooray.
A specialist who repairs leaking water pipes, and that's a plumber. Right? No worries if you weren't able to blurt it out right away because you have 3 seconds to respond. But beyond 3 seconds, the microphone shuts off and moves on to the next question. So
Oh
you have to
no.
answer
Oh no.
within the 3 second period that's provided for you. Okay, what is the painting of a person's head usually called? Many people get this wrong actually from our students, and the correct answer is certainly portrait. So there.
What do they say?
I don't know. Some head, helmet.
Head, the head. Oh
I get
no.
a lot.
Busts. A bust.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, sculpture. They say
Sculpture.
different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Painting,
Oh,
art. Yeah, I do
art.
get a lot of different answers here because they just don't
Mm.
understand like person's head,
Huh?
painting.
Like, yeah.
So they
Oh,
don't get
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I guess. So in the sense, it's a test of knowledge, I suppose, and vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
part, this part. Oh, Kameni has a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she was not talking about the title, but rather the
Uh,
shape, like whether it's a pie
okay, the
chart or
line
bar
graph and the
graph.
pie chart.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be required. Okay, I think that's very interesting because
Mm.
content will not assess whether you mentioned it's a map or it's a chart or it's a bar chart or a line graph or a histogram.
Or whatever
Um,
else it is.
whatever. If you just said the data present and or you said the chart shows, but you don't even know if it's a pie chart or a bar graph, it doesn't really matter, and the computer will not deduct points just because you didn't mention that.
Mm.
No, it's
Thank
not
you.
that strict. Sometimes, when you're taking the PTE, there are so many guidelines you get online, but it's just proving to the computer you can speak to a native English speaker and be understood. That's
Mm-hmm.
the goal. And I think this was clarified by PTE because I attended as no, I actually facilitated the seminar last time, and then I was talking to some of the people from PTE, and they actually clarified that the AI system of PTE is programmed just like a native English speaker. So if you will be understood by the AI, then it means to say that native English speakers will also understand you because they're programmed to act like native English speakers.
Mm.
So that's how it works. You don't have
Yeah.
to fake things and be artificial in your examination and take into consideration so many of those guidelines because just have to show that you can communicate effectively to a native English speaker.
Yeah, I imagine there's so many. And I listened to your lectures, Sir Brian, and you always warn people against the dangers of following templates without thinking about them, like
Hmm.
thinking that they could be robots and just copy paste whatever they read or hear, and
Hmm.
then they'd get a good grade. It doesn't quite work like that, right?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to, as Sir Brian just mentioned, Kamini, no need to fake anything. You don't need to sound like a native. Although, Sir Brian, it's correct that there are various native accents, right? And
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
there are various accents, but the good thing about the PTE is it is able to recognize so many accents,
yeah. Mm.
a wide variety of accents, and it learns even up to this day. So, if a candidate from this particular region has never taken the PTE and he takes it for the first time, it learns to recognize that accent
Oh,
as well.
interesting.
Yeah, so in almost
Interesting.
all of the territories now, there's a test taker for PTE, and PTE assures you guys that your accent will be recognized so long as it sounds sort of or close to neutral. You don't have to fake an American, British, or Australian accent. Now, I understand where this is coming from because a lot of the AI software nowadays available online, especially those that were released 2, 3 years or 4 years ago, are programmed to listen to only the native accents. So if people talk in a different accent, usually these AI, marking software would actually grade them lower. But that's not the PTE. PTE is a more advanced AI system, and it is meant to and programmed to recognize all accents in the world.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. I guess that's what you're paying for with PTE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why PTE is like how much compared to $5 for the subscriptions for AI
Yeah.
software.
You always get what you pay for.
Yes, yeah, certainly.
All right.
Okay, so all right, so let's go now to the feedback session. So, how did Sir Philip do?
How did I do, Sir Brian?
Perfect.
Oh.
If I were to grade Sir Philip here, certainly it's not going to be any lower than 86. And 86 is actually top scores for PTE because 86 is equivalent to 9 on the IELTS.
Hmm.
Um,
Although,
and
although,
yeah, you get
although Sir
90,
Brian,
right?
Sir Brian, I know this person who got 90 in all of the components in
Yes.
both
So 90
computing
cannot be
and
compared to IELTS anymore because 86 is, the upper margin of the conversion. So
Mhm.
it is certainly 9 also, but if you
Not
get
quite.
86 across the board, then it's also 9. Yeah. You get the,
Functionally, right?
yeah,
Functionally.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
There's this guy though that I know. He got 90 in all of the enabling and communicative skills. He's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah. I'm sharing him. I'm sharing a space with him right now.
All right. Yeah. But yeah. That's gonna be you in a few days. All right. So
I'm
Sir
sure.
Philip has actually done a great job, and I actually loved especially the retail lecture. A lot of candidates struggle with this part, but Sir Philip breezed through the retail lectures if it was nothing. So yeah, that's actually proof that he has excellent English and he's definitely going to do well in the
I
test.
hope so.
Um, and PTE is usually calculated in such a manner that one mistake is not going to deduct 1 point. So if you miss one item, guys, don't be a perfectionist because it's okay to commit errors. For example, you didn't repeat one word correct, or you missed plumber. It's not
I
going to be the
almost did. I almost
it's not going
did.
to be the case that you're going to get, oh, I'm going to get 89 only. You might be
Oh
shocked
no.
to get still a 90 in your test because I have actually had plenty of students before and they said
Mm.
they didn't do so well in a repeat sentence, like they missed a few words here and there, maybe a couple per sentence or one every once in a while, but when they received their results, their speaking scores were still 90.
Oh, interesting. So it's not 1:1, apparently.
No, no, it's not like that. There's going to be a very unique kind of and calculation or algorithm that the computer will utilize to determine whether the mistakes are actually random mistakes and minor slips, and not necessarily, lapses in language or your English proficiency. So,
Interesting.
because even if you're a native English speaker, let's face it, you can probably still miss a few words for repeat sentence, right?
Right, right. I
I
mean,
mean, your native
I mean,
language is English, but you can still probably miss a few words because you didn't hear everything right, or
correct.
perhaps you weren't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that your English is actually poor or you're incompetent, right? So the computer will
Exactly.
have adjustments to that. So if majority of the speech will be all good, there are a few lapses, but these are just minor and stray errors. They will be forgiven. Unlike in other English exams, there's no forgiveness. Okay.
Oh no, not very merciful at all.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It's a fun
The
exam.
it does sound like a fun exam, and
Hmm.
what I understood, Sir Brian, from what you were explaining to us, is that when you're in the middle of taking the test and you are aware that you commit some mistakes, it's helpful to keep in mind that we should zoom out and not
Hmm.
allow minor errors to discourage and dishearten us, because
Yes.
success is still well within reach, even if you have
Yes.
minor mistakes.
That's correct. Because some people get demotivated, like, oh my gosh, I missed one repeat sentence. I'm gonna flunk.
Oh
It's not
no,
always like that.
and it's the first exam, correct? Uh, yeah,
Yeah, certainly.
there's so much more to do. I
Yes.
Trisha Nicole Largo is asking for tips for retail lecture. Because you mentioned, I believe you mentioned earlier, Sir Brian, that this is one of the tests that our
Yeah.
students have real challenges with.
Mhm.
Any, what are these challenges? Like, I guess top of mind
Mhm.
that they struggle with, and
Yeah.
partly I was struggling with earlier
Hmm.
myself.
It didn't sound like you did struggle.
Oh well, you're very kind and gracious, Sir.
Okay, so anyway, for read the lecture, I feel that because the recording is, if you would notice, the recording is not really fabricated. It is using a natural kind of pacing. It doesn't sound very rehearsed, like a kind of recording that was just it's really sometimes you get speeches, real speeches in PTE,
Mm,
not like the fabricated ones, like not the pre-recorded ones for exam purposes, but you get some people and there's going to be a bit of background noise sometimes,
mm,
or some interruptions in the middle of the person talking, or it's not flawless, like sometimes people commit mistakes and they had to correct themselves. So you get those in PTE because the pacing is natural and not slowed down, right, for second language English users. So it can be a tad fast. One of the
interesting.
best tips is definitely to write very quickly and to pick up as much of the information as you can using your erasable notepad, because it's going to actually be very quick. It's going to be over before you know it. And sometimes if you're taking your time to write, you will miss so many of those details that are important in your delivery. So write fast. Another thing that is problematic is some candidates talk too much. Like they pick up one important feature of the discussion and they over elaborate and discuss so much that they end up talking for 20 seconds over, and they realize they still have two, three more to go, and they don't
Mm.
have time anymore.
Oh
And that's
no, oh no.
disastrous in the
Yeah.
examination. So this requires a little bit of familiarization on how much time you have and how to budget your time wisely so that you can deliver all of the key points within the 40-second period. Exactly how Sir Philip did it a while ago. That can be your model because it's so effective. Like, he covered everything in a very short amount of time. So yeah, if you can listen to that later, after this live, that can be your model response. Sir Philip, would you want to give some suggestions as well on how you did that a while ago?
Oh, I really focused on keywords, and I noted that there seem to be always lists when it comes to the lecture. Like, so there's 1 and 2 and 3. I made generous use of numbering and bullet points and no
Yes.
sentences, because
Hmm.
it's really time bound sort of exercise. And I imagine that if you can see the physical timer moving in front of you, it may be it may allow some people to perform better because it allows them to be more concise. But at the same
Yes.
time, it might make people more nervous. Like, oh my
Yes,
god,
panic.
hala, oh dear.
Totally understand.
Like emotional management is a huge
Yes,
part
yes,
of
yes.
taking any test. Yeah.
Certain.
Alicia is asking whether PTE is accepted for PA.
Oh,
What's
well, you would definitely have to ask your case manager because we don't know exactly if Pennsylvania will accept it. So it will really depend on the nursing board. For visa screen, certainly yes, that's the answer. But you have to know if your nursing board will accept it or not. So ask your case manager, and of course, Connetics is here to assist you with your applications.
precisely?
If you have any questions, just ask Connetics. You can also find our link CUSA, so that you can, this is the link. Oh,
There we
amazing!
go.
CUSA.link/Niner, and you can, if you want to. Kickstart your application to the US as a nurse, just use the link down below. And yeah, that's good. All right. So, other questions?
Lester Dulay is asking. I think we have time for one last question.
Yeah, one last
Hi.
question.
Lester is asking whether pitch affects the score for read aloud.
Good question. I get that a lot. I don't know why, because it seems a lot of the PTE software available in the market right now, at least for the third party resources, actually takes into account the pitch of the voice of males versus females. I just don't understand that because, frankly speaking, when I took the PTE, and that was. I don't know how many years ago, but a long, long time,
Long,
long,
long
long
ago.
time
Long,
ago.
long ago.
All right. My voice was very high still. For a male, I have a high pitched voice, and I had a higher voice back then than now. But even so, I got a 90 on the speaking test. So I feel the pitch is not that much of an issue as long as you still sound clear. Pitch is going to be a problem only if you're so high pitched that the recording is already affected just because the pitch is too high and it cannot be captured effectively by the microphone. So you would probably need to use a more resonant kind of voice, your diaphragmatic voice perhaps to sound a little bit better if your voice is just too high pitched. But that's very rare, for people to sound very
Oh,
shouty. Yeah.
oh, that I have a question. As a follow up for that, Sir Brian, you did
Mhm.
mention that the algorithm that PTE uses is trained on like tens of thousands of performances,
Mhm.
etc. Would it be fair to say that if you are like the outlier, like your pitch
Mhm.
is like so high or like so down or so low or whatever, would it negatively impact like your score, even if
Mm.
that's your natural pitch? There are outliers in any
Yeah,
scenario, I
I would
guess.
have to admit that it might, if it is just so exaggerated, like it's something that cannot be anymore understood by the
Oh
computer
no.
because the pitch is just super high, or if the voice is too weak, yeah, or whispery, airy. There's a
Areas.
tendency. But think of it this way, and this is what I say to most of the students: go grab your iPhone or whatever phone you have, and then try to make Google or Siri record your voice, and tell Siri or Google whatever. And if they can pick up what you said, then there's a high chance that PTE will as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll try
So
that later.
yeah, yeah. If you're not understood by your own virtual assistant, then that's going to be a problem. You
That's
know.
true. That's true. Kameni has a very low mark in the speaking section. Sir Brian, would you have any
Hmm.
advice for Kameni?
Okay. There are plenty. All right. So you have to
Yeah.
diagnose because PTE actually tells you exactly where you did not do well at. when you get your results, especially right now, there's feedback, right? So you go not only to the communicative skills components, you also go to the more enabling components. And right now, it's so specific, it's going to tell you something there that will help you to improve your performance on your next try. All right, so some of the causes, although I won't know exactly what the causes are for you, and I think one of the most common these days is, according to PTE, not producing original speech, and that's written on your results sheet, like your test result form will contain it. Not producing original speech, what does that mean? You're using a lot of templates for speaking, you're using a lot of templates in writing. That's why we never advocate for this, because if you ever use them in the exam, the computer will detect them, and then you will be given severe markdowns for your performance, because anything that's not original is not graded. So for example, in your described image, you used 5 templates, and all of those 5 templates were recognized by the computer. What's going to be left apart from those templates will be the ones graded only. You get my point, guys. So you have to make sure you have original responses and you're not templating everything. That's one. Number two, try to figure out if you spoke really well during the test and your microphone didn't have any kind of technical problem. Because if it's the one that's low and everything else is high, then it probably has something to do with the technical aspect of the exam. So make sure to test your microphone right before you take the exam. If you have to do it over and over again until you get the right sound, then do that. Some people hear severe static sounds while they're recording. It's probably because the microphone is not plugged in correctly. It can affect your test performance. So look into these things. Unfortunately, you cannot file for remarking because there's going to only be one score even after the remarking, since they're going to feed it to the same AI system, and rarely does it make mistakes.
Hmm. That surprises me. Like even if there are like technical difficulties with the equipment provided by the test center.
Mhm. Um,
So
Yeah, so you have to just report, because PTE has backup computers and stations for individuals who experience technical problems. They also have backup headsets. So sometimes if your headset is faulty, they have to replace it, and they will. Just raise your hand, and right before you attempt the examination, you should have already reported that to your invigilators on the floor, because there's actually an agreement there when you click next that everything is working, like you
that
did the
makes
audio check
sense.
and all that.
That
So
makes
when you have
sense.
already attempted, there's no way you're going to actually be able to complain about that. But prior to the start of the examination, you could always raise your hand and inform your invigilators or your test
Right.
administrators that there's a problem.
It's not like the equipment will like suddenly mysteriously fail in the
Oh,
middle
no, no, no.
of your exam when it worked perfectly well at the start of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if it ever does, they can, if, for example, your computer shuts down all of a sudden, you unplug it, you kick the plug out of
or,
the
or there was a
outlet,
blackout or
or this
whatever.
blackout.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Your computer started beeping all of a sudden. Um, they can always reset your time, and they can always go back to the previous question. That can be done by the test administrator.
Same question. Same question. Like what we did earlier, Sir Brian.
Oh yeah, they're going to go back to the previous question, but know that in PTE questions are randomized, so it doesn't mean to say that if this is your examination, this is always going to be the questions that will be asked. So there's a tendency that when you move on to the next item, it's different this time, because the computer actually feeds different questions to different
Mm,
candidates. So not a single one of you taking the examination on the floor will have the same set.
interesting. Interesting. I thought. Okay. I will keep my thoughts to myself and not recommend any
Yeah, because
bad
it's
things.
it's really distracting sometimes, because when you're taking the read aloud portion, people are reading different passages. Like when you're taking the examination, you hear so many people and they're reading aloud, but they have different passages, so it's really kind of distracting inside. You have to make sure that
Right.
you're concentrated.
Yeah, and not to speak too loudly as well, because if you speak
Yes,
too
you're gonna
loudly,
distract.
then it can
Oh my
be
gosh,
heard by the
immoral.
other mind, by the other mic.
Unethical. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Oh, it's
distract all
yeah.
other people.
This has
All
been such a wonderful night together with you, Sir
right.
Brian. Yeah.
Certain. All right, so that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and Sir Brian and Sir Philip from 9.09er, and don't forget to apply using our link cusa.link/9er. Thank you so much, and see you again next time. Have a great day.
Bye.